There are structures beneath the ground that should not exist. In Turkey, there is an underground city called Derinkuyu. It descends 85 meters below the surface. Ventilation shafts just 10 centimeters wide deliver breathable air through solid rock to 18 separate levels without pumps or fans. 20,000 people could survive there for months. We still do not know how those shafts were carved. In Malta, there is a chamber that amplifies sound at 110 hertz. Researchers found that this frequency affects the brain, increasing emotion and disorientation. Similar chambers exist in Ireland, Scotland, and Peru. In China, workers carved 24 caverns underground with walls so thin they should have broken into each other. They never did. These are not isolated accidents. They are repeated. Measurable features built into stone by people using tools that should not have been capable of producing them. These are 8 ancient underground alien tunnel discoveries. Number 1. Derinkuyu Underground City, Turkey. The city was 85 meters deep before anyone living above it knew it existed. 18 levels of carved volcanic rock, each sealed from the others by circular stone doors. 20,000 people could live here for months. The ventilation worked. The temperature never changed. And until 1963, the only clue on the surface was a man's kitchen wall. He knocked it down during renovations. The wall opened into a passage. The passage led to stairs going down. He kept going. For an hour, he was still going down. 18 levels deep, 85 meters below the surface, a 28-story building inverted into the earth. It housed 20,000 people for months, with livestock, food stores, wine presses, schools, and churches. The stone doors, each carved from a single rock, weighing up to 500 kilograms, sealed every level from inside. Each floor was its own fortress. Temperature, a constant 13 to 15 degrees Celsius, year-round. Here is what stops ventilation engineers. Over 15,000 shafts penetrate the rock, the deepest reaching 55 meters, the smallest just 10 centimeters wide. And together, they create passive airflow to every level. No pumps, no bellows. Geometry and geology moving breathable air 85 meters underground to a floor that housed animals. Modern engineers confirm the airflow works. They cannot explain how it was designed. The accepted answer? Ancient builders carved through pyroclastic tuff, compressed volcanic ash, soft enough for iron tools. The city grew over generations, and the ventilation shafts were cut by hand from below. Here is the question nobody has answered. Each shaft is 10 centimeters wide and descends 85 meters with consistent diameter, top to bottom. They were not drilled. That precision did not exist. They were carved by hand from below, through rock already formed around you. How do you cut a straight vertical hole through 85 meters of solid rock from below without a drill? That question has been open for 60 years. Number 2, Longyu Caves, China. June the 9th, 1992. Farmer Wu Anai in Longyu County, China, had a theory about a local pond that legend called bottomless. He rented a pump to test it. He pumped for 17 days. The water dropped and revealed the entrance to a carved stone cavern 30 meters deep. He drained 4 more ponds. Each one opened into another cavern. 24 caverns. Over 30,000 square meters, 4 professional football pitches, carved underground. Ceilings reaching up to 30 meters tall. Every surface cut from solid siltstone. Every cavern still intact after 2,000 years. The walls between adjacent caverns are, in places, just 50 centimeters thick. Yet no two were ever accidentally connected. Workers at the bottom of one could not see into the next. Here is what stops engineers from every discipline. Every surface, ceiling, walls, pillars, floor, carries the same pattern. Parallel bands, each approximately 60 centimeters wide. with chisel lines set at an angle of exactly 60 degrees to the band axis. Identical. Across all 24 caverns, carved by workers in separate chambers with no line of sight between them. No blueprint, no measuring instrument from the relevant era has been found. Yang Hongxun, of the Archaeological Institute of the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, stated that the apparatus required to maintain this alignment between separated caverns should have been very advanced. The accepted explanation: skilled workers with short iron chisels, coordinating by methods we have not recovered, cutting top to bottom through siltstones soft enough to carve but stable enough to hold. Not one document from any Chinese dynasty mentions these caves. Here is the problem nobody discusses. 1 million cubic meters of rock was removed. That is what the space accounts for. There is no spoil heap, no debris field, no road worn by carts. The rock was taken somewhere and left no trace. 1 million cubic meters. Gone. Long U is about what is carved, the identical angle, the missing rock, the silence of every historical record. Number 3. Hypogeum of Halsaflieni, Malta. 1902. A stonemason in Paola, Malta, was laying foundations for new houses on a hilltop. His drill broke through into empty space. He lowered a torch. He saw carved chambers below him. He covered the hole with a stone. He said nothing for several years, while the houses were completed and occupied above him. 3 levels, carved from soft limestone using chert, flint, obsidian, and antlers. No metal tools existed for the builders. The lowest level reaches 10.6 meters below the surface. The complex is over 5,000 years old. Inside, archaeologists found the remains of approximately 7,000 individuals, deposited across a period of use spanning 1,500 years. This was not a tomb that was filled once and sealed, and it was used continuously, generation after generation, for longer than the entire history of the Roman Empire. In the middle level, there is a chamber called the Oracle Room. A word spoken inside is amplified an estimated 100-fold and audible throughout the entire structure. Researchers Ruben Zara and a team from Italian universities measured the resonant frequency of this space, 110 Hz. Dr. Robert John at Princeton University studied that specific frequency. His finding: 110 Hz stimulates the right hemisphere of the brain, the intuitive, emotional side, while suppressing the left. Listeners report altered states, heightened emotion, and disorientation. This chamber was carved using antlers and flint by people with no written language, and the accepted explanation: the chamber's dimensions, curved walls, ceiling height, limestone density, happened to produce this resonance naturally. The builders discovered it through observation and constructed accordingly. Here is the question acoustic researchers have not been able to dismiss. 110 Hz has been documented at Newgrange in Ireland, in stone chambers in Scotland, in tunnel systems in Peru. These civilizations had no contact with each other, no shared language, no known exchange of knowledge. How do 4 separate peoples on 3 continents independently carve chambers that produce the identical neurological effect? No answer has been proposed that satisfies researchers across all 4 sites. Number 4. Chavín de Huántar, Peru. Stanford archaeologist John Rick has worked at Chavín de Huántar since 1995. He knows every gallery, every sealed passage, every flooded corridor. He is 12 meters underground in a stone tunnel when the sound begins. It does not come from one direction. It comes from all of them. The walls speak, the floor speaks. It is water, but not as you have heard it. A roar that fills the body before it reaches the ears. Chavín de Huántar sits at 3,180 meters above sea level in the Ancash region of northern Peru. Occupied from approximately 1,500 BC to 400 BC, older than classical Greece. 35 confirmed tunnels beneath the temple. Some galleries descend more than 12 meters, some flooded, some sealed. The full network has not been mapped. The builders diverted the Rio Wachexa River and routed it through underground channels beneath the complex. Rick calls it defiance of nature. As water moves through the channels, it produces a roar audible throughout the system. The sound changes direction without warning. Visitors report physical unease, involuntary, not psychological. A team from Stanford's Center for Computer Research in Music and Acoustics mapped the tunnel acoustics. Specific configurations act as resonance chambers connected by corridors functioning as sound transmission tubes. In 2001, 20 marine-shelled trumpets called pututus were found in one gallery, brought from tropical waters 800 kilometers away. Worn through from use, still playable. Their frequency matches the tunnel resonance exactly. Here the accepted explanation. Priests combined the hydraulic system, shell trumpets, polished graphite mirrors, and psychoactive substances into a total sensory environment. Pilgrims arrived uncertain. They left converted. Rick calls it an evangelical machine. Here is the engineering problem with no resolution. The builders routed a river to produce a specific acoustic effect inside stone. They calibrated channel geometry against tunnel dimensions against target sound frequency. Then cut all three into rock at 3,000 meters of altitude. The field of acoustics was not named for another 2,500 years. Every tunnel we have seen was built to contain something. People, sound, water, the dead. Number 5. The Serapeum Tunnels, Egypt, 1850. French archaeologist Auguste Mariette noticed a sphinx protruding from the sand northwest of the step pyramid at Saqqara. He followed the avenue. He dynamited through sealed stone doors. Behind them, tunnels cut directly through limestone bedrock. On both sides of the main gallery, carved into alcoves barely large enough to hold them, were 24 granite boxes. Each almost filled its niche, 40 centimeters of clearance on each side. Each box is carved from a single block of black or pink Aswan granite, 4 meters long, 2.5 meters wide, 3 1/3 meters tall. The body weighs approximately 70 metric tons. The lid, 30. Combined, approaching 100 metric tons, the weight of a fully loaded commercial aircraft. Aswan granite rates 6 to 7 on the Mohs hardness scale, harder than steel. The quarry is 800 kilometers away. Mariette opened them. They were empty. No bulls, no remains. Only smooth granite walls. Christopher Dunn spent 49 years in high-precision aerospace manufacturing. He measured the interior walls of 2 boxes with an industrial gauge accurate to 2 ten-thousandths of an inch. The walls were flat to that tolerance. Interior corners, within a fraction of a degree of 90 degrees. Corner transition radius, 4 millimeters. Dunn asked a United States precision engineering firm whether they could replicate one box from a solid block of granite. Their answer: with an unlimited budget, it would still require 6 separate pieces. The ancient boxes are each one block. Here the accepted explanation. Egyptian stonemasons, using copper and stone tools over an extended period, achieved this precision through repeated refinement against known templates. Here is why that explanation fails 5 tests simultaneously. Aerospace-grade flatness. In a tunnel too narrow for the equipment that produces it. Rock that defeats modern tungsten carbide tools, stone sourced 800 kilometers away. Boxes placed into niches with 40 centimeters of clearance and no room for levers. Each box carved from a single block that modern engineering says requires 6 separate pieces. Any one of those facts would be notable. Number 6. Ellora Kailasa Temple, India, 8th century. A master architect named Kokasa stands at the top of a basalt cliff in Maharashtra, India. He is not looking up at where a temple will stand. He is looking down at where it will be cut from. He cannot add material. He cannot correct a wrong cut. Every decision today determines the structural load on every cut below. The entire template for the complex exists only in his head. What he carved? Approximately 84 meters long, 47 meters wide, 33 meters tall from courtyard to tower top. Rock removed, approximately 200,000 metric tons of basalt. Basalt is dense volcanic rock. It resists cutting tools. The builders had iron chisels. The result? Towers, pillars, halls, galleries, bridges, staircases, an inner sanctuary. 34,000 square meters of carved relief panels. All of it the same, single rock. Here is the engineering problem with no modern equivalent. Top-down excavation means every cut at a higher level determines what is structurally possible below. An error on day 1 cannot be corrected on day 1,000. There is no undo. While structural carvers removed rock from above, sculptors worked below, carving individual figures less than 30 centimeters tall, with distinct facial expressions, onto walls still being excavated over their heads. 2 precision work streams. 1 rock, simultaneous. No ability to separate the work sites. Art historians confirm this has no parallel in monolithic construction. The accepted explanation: a master architect provided the plan. Specialized teams executed each level in sequence. The basalt's natural fracture lines guided large removals. Here is what that explanation cannot account for. The drainage channels still function today, more than 1,200 years later. They were designed for the rock once fully exposed, not as it stood during construction. The drainage layout was calculated before the first cut. Before excavation began, the architect already knew where every surface would sit, how rainwater would move, and how to channel it away from sculptures not yet carved. That is not craftsmanship. That is engineering modeling without the model. Ellora is one temple, one cliff, extraordinary, and still a single structure. What comes next is not a city. It is a civilization. Number 7. Cappadocia Tunnel Network, Turkey. In 1969, researchers working in Cappadocia begin to understand something they had not expected. Derinkuyu is not alone. Kaymakli is not alone. The surveys keep returning the same result. More entrances, more shafts, more sealed doors cut into volcanic rock. What they are mapping is not a collection of underground shelters. It is a connected subterranean world running beneath an entire region. Cappadocia covers approximately 50,000 square kilometers of central Anatolia. Approximately 200 separate underground city complexes have been identified across that area. Only 6 have been substantially excavated. Derinkuyu is the deepest at 85 meters. Kaymakli is the widest. A connecting tunnel between them runs approximately 9 kilometers long, as these 2 cities alone could house more than 25,000 people. Across 200 cities, the total population capacity of the underground world reaches into the hundreds of thousands. Here is what stops researchers from treating this as one engineering tradition and moving on. Every complex shares the same infrastructure. Rolling stone doors of identical design, ventilation shafts of consistent diameter, wells at consistent depths, wine presses, stables, schools, chapels. Structural solutions identical across a region the size of a small country. Maintaining that uniformity, without standardized measurement tools, across 200 separate sites separated by tens of kilometers, implies either a central engineering authority or a knowledge transmission system so complete it left no written record. On neither possibility has been found. The accepted explanation: successive civilizations, Hittites, Phrygians, early Christians, expanded the network over centuries, sharing construction knowledge orally. Consistent design reflects regional tradition, not a single coordinated project. Here is the question oral tradition does not resolve. The surface of Cappadocia is habitable. The climate is livable. The land is farmable. These were not emergency shelters. They were permanent communities with wine presses and schools and chapels. Nobody builds a school in a temporary refuge. Some researchers argue the network predates documented periods of use by thousands of years. That the Hittites and early Christians did not build these cities. They moved into them. That the original builders are entirely unknown, and their reason for going underground was never recorded. Only 10% of the known network has been excavated. 7 tunnel systems, 6 countries, thousands of years between the oldest and the newest. And now, the one that is most disputed, least verified, and most deliberately placed at the end of this list. Number 8. Ecuador Metal Library Tunnels. Ecuador, 1976. Father Carlos Crespi, an Italian Salesian missionary who has lived in Cuenca, Ecuador for decades, leads explorer Stan Hall into the back room of a church. Against the walls, stacked in piles, are metal plates, covered in engravings, symbols, animals, figures, geometric patterns, in a style that resembles no known South American culture. Crespi says local indigenous people have been bringing them for years. Retrieved, they tell him, from tunnels in the jungle. Father Crespi arrived in Cuenca in the 1920s. Over several decades, he accumulated thousands of metal artifacts, plates, discs, objects of unknown purpose. In 1962, a fire destroyed part of the collection. After his death in 1982, the surviving pieces were taken to the Vatican. In 1976, Stan Hall and Ecuadorian authorities surveyed the jungle region Crespi described. They confirmed the existence of tunnels. They did not establish the extent. Here is where this item separates from the previous 7. The metal plates are likely forgeries, locally made objects sold to a priest who accepted everything. No peer-reviewed study has confirmed the library's authenticity. Access to the tunnel area is restricted by the Ecuadorian government, and the reasons given vary depending on who is asked. This channel is telling you that directly, because presenting disputed evidence as verified fact is exactly what separates the previous 7 items from speculation. Every site on this list carried a clear line between confirmed and unconfirmed. This one does too. What is confirmed? Tunnels exist in the region Father Crespi described, independently verified. Their extent, age, and origin have not been established. No excavation has been conducted. Here is why unexcavated tunnels belong on this list. The Ecuadorian jungle has no known ancient tradition of large-scale underground excavation. If an extensive network exists, and the partial survey says something is there, then the question of who built it is the same question this video has been asking for 7 items. The plates may be forgeries, the library may be legend, but the tunnels are real. And unlike every other site on this list, they have not been examined. We do not know what is inside them. That absence is its own kind of mystery. The only one on this list that is still entirely open. 7 sites with answers that do not satisfy. 1 site with no answer at all. That is where we stop. Not because the mystery is solved, because the ground has not been opened yet. 8 tunnel systems, different rock types, different tools, different purposes, defense, ritual, burial, acoustic manipulation, precision containment. The same result. A gap between what each structure requires and what the evidence of tools and methods can explain. In Saqqara, the gap is a surface tolerance. In Long U, it is a missing million cubic meters of rock. In Malta, it is acoustic knowledge without a written language. In Peru, it is hydraulic engineering without a hydraulic tradition. In Ecuador, it is a tunnel not yet opened. The gap is not in the same place for each site. But there is always a gap. That consistency, across 12,000 years and 6 countries, is the only thing these 8 places share. These 8 sites are not connected by geography or culture. What connects them is a single dimension, the underground. And within that dimension, each one presents a problem that modern analysis has examined with primary source measurements and cannot fully resolve. Not has not yet resolved. Not will eventually resolve. Currently cannot resolve. That is the honest position. It is worth saying clearly. And it is the only conclusion these 8 places support together. We are comfortable with ancient humans being spiritually sophisticated. We are comfortable with them being socially organized. We are not comfortable with them being technically advanced in ways we cannot replicate with their documented tools. That discomfort is worth examining. Because the evidence underground does not care about our comfort. And if any of these 8 places stayed with you, if you found yourself thinking about the measurement or the sound or the missing rock, that is not unusual. These questions have a weight that does not lift. This channel is for the people who feel that weight and refuse to put it down easily. The next video involves something above the surface this time. And the problem it presents is, if anything, harder to explain than what you just saw underground. It is already waiting for you.